can only imagine Instagram might have blocked something. I'm ready, baby.
I can't let you be the biggest guy.
You might as well keep bossing me around for the last minute.
Hey, we got these on.
Ready to go here?
We're on.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
We're on.
How you doing?
All right. Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
When King Abdullah sits down, we'll. King? Mr. Acker.
No, I got one right here. Good to go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to the Abington Heights School Board meeting for Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. Would everyone please rise and pledge the flag?
Oh, my bad.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. O'Day, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Abdullah,
Here.
Mr. Azar,
Here.
Mrs. Henderson,
Here.
Mrs. Hillebrand,
Here.
Mrs. Karam,
Here.
Mr. Moran, Mr. Robeson,
Here.
Mrs. Tierney,
Here.
Mr. Acker,
Here.
8 present.
We're going to deviate a little bit and I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda that you have in front of you.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Abdullah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hillebrand, Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Acker,
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you very much. Dr. Schaefer, would you like to do the next one?
Sure thing.
Assistant Superintendent.
Right. So I was just figuring out if I had to do the motion for that.
I don't think it says that,
All right. So at this time,
because we approved it last month.
we approved it last time, so forget where it says motion to approve. So at this time, I would like to introduce officially Dr. Michelle Cost, our new Assistant Superintendent, and she is now going to take the oath of office as a commissioned officer.
All right, Michelle, can I raise your right hand? I, Dr. Michelle Cost,
I, Dr. Michelle Connor,
being duly appointed
being duly appointed
to the position of Assistant Superintendent
to the position of Assistant Superintendent
of the Abington Heights School
of
District,
the Abington School District,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the laws
and the laws
of the Commonwealth,
of the Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Dr. Cass, while you're signing that, I just want to remind you, last month we gave you a chance to run away and you stuck around, so
That's fair.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. May I please have a, while we're doing this, may I please have a motion to approve the minutes for the
So-
meeting of October 16th and November 6th?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mr. Hildebrand, Mrs. Hildebrand,
Yes.
Mrs. Karen,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Acker,
Yes.
8-0.
Okay. Mr. McVitie, you're all by yourself tonight.
Yeah, tonight no Gia, so I guess you guys are gonna have to settle for me. I know it's,
So
Much less exciting.
You're going to do it all, right?
I'm gonna do it all.
Excellent.
So, I am gonna start with the academics report. The first quarter ended on November 6th, and report cards were sent home yesterday, November 19th. And more exciting than that, the National Honor Society is running our annual food drive, and the big prize is a powder puff game. And so we're asking everybody to please help us reach our goal of 12,000 cans right now. Last time I checked, I think by the end of today, we're at 5,500 and it ends Friday. So we're gonna be cutting it a little close. The Interact Club is currently working with Meals on Wheels this holiday season to help support the elderly and families of fixed income in our community. The PBIS Comet ambassadors are growing, and the winter sports are about to be underway. And for the parents, the November Parent Workshop Series will be held on Tuesday, November 26th from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Abington Heights High School Auditorium. Abby Judge will be at the high school, and she is from the Lackawanna College, and she will answer any questions students have about the dual enrollment program. She will be available for students to visit during periods 1 through 4 tomorrow. And in athletics, I'm going to give you a quick fall season summary. And the fall 2024 athletic season has been one to remember at Abington Heights. And so I just want to go over some of the incredible accomplishments by our student athletes and our teams this year. So overall, we had 139 wins and 40 losses with a 77% win rate, which was pretty good. Some really amazing accomplishments. We had 4 team league champions, and those teams included our boys soccer, boys golf, and girls cross country. We had 5 team district champions, the girls cross country, boys golf, girls golf, which was their first ever district championship, the girls tennis, and our first football district championship since 2016. We had 4 individual district champions. From the girls tennis singles, Susan Arp, and it is her 3rd consecutive win. The girls tennis doubles, Sona Hanamali and Mary Booth with their 2nd consecutive district title. And with boys golf, we have Kate Gallagher, and with our girls cross country, Anna Puchalowski. We had 4 team state appearances from our boys golf, girls tennis, girls cross country, and our football team. And we had 4 individual state appearances as well. Those included our boys golf with Kate Kelleher, Robert Munley, Philip Matthew, and Robert Bingham. With our girls tennis singles, Susan Arp, our girls tennis doubles, Sona Hanamali and Mary Booth, and our boys cross country with Timmy Fogley. Our varsity football team hosted their pediatric cancer awareness game on 10/25. The team recognized students from our district that are pediatric cancer survivors and those that are still in treatment as honorary captains for the evening. To date, over $3,400 has been raised, and in keeping with their annual combine theme, Compete for a Cause, the Abington Heights football program has partnered with the Make-A-Wish Foundation to help create life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses. Through this partnership, 100% of the donations collected will go directly to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And these donations will help ensure that life-changing wish becomes a reality for a child in Lackawanna County. And I want to highlight donations can be made online by visiting the Abington Heights Football Program's fundraising page. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, before we move on to the superintendent's reports, I'd like to circle back to board reports. I know we have a couple committees that have reports. Mr. Robeson, would you like to
Sure, yes,
Start us
thank you.
off?
Thank you, Mr. Acker. Yeah, so the technology group met last week at this time, it was November 13th, I believe. And we really went over a lot of the status of a lot of the projects that are in flight. And most of our projects have been infrastructure type. So things that you really don't see. You really don't hear about how great it is until something breaks. So that's usually when you find out about infrastructure, if it's working or not. But, and every year, I try to give a thorough update as to where the dollars are going. And I'm going to do that, but not today. We're going to do something a little different. The one thing that we've done as part of our architecture and infrastructure is invest a lot in cameras. And it's not just the cameras, it's also the technology behind the cameras and the locations of where we put the cameras. So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. So instead of putting it on a PowerPoint and giving you the numbers, even though I'll give you some numbers, we have 109 cameras, we're going to do a little demo. And it'll take about 2 minutes. And I promise that you'll get your status PowerPoint next year. But considering I think this is the last meeting, we'll go out with a little demo. All right? And Justin, our IT director, is going to help us. And so let me give you the use case of what we're doing here. The technology we have allows someone, an operator, to scrape a picture of somebody or a type of car or an object, load it into the software, and the software will search internally of that person or thing and where they have been if they're caught on, I shouldn't use the word caught, if they're
Captured?
if they're captured, thank you, on using the cameras. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin, and he's going to walk us through just a case that we did at our technology meeting last week. And I was like, you know what, we invested a lot in this. Let's take 2 minutes and show the board. So with that, I'll turn it over to Justin.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for letting me give this little demo for you.
He's
So-
gonna geek out.
Yeah, if you'll let me geek out for a minute. This is our Verkada interface. It's web-based. All of the cameras that we have record internally within the camera. There's a memory card in the camera. Right now, we have 30 days retention on each camera. For every one of the cameras, when we want to go in and grab a section of footage, we can archive it indefinitely. But the cameras themselves have a 30-day retention. Mr. Robson said we have 109 cameras throughout all of the buildings in the district, including some interior hallway cameras and exterior cameras. Some of the neat features with this system are the built-in AI the AI processing that it has. So I could go, just out to the internet, do a search.
It's a glamour shot. Yeah, we're in the 90s.
So I'm just gonna grab a picture of Anthony here.
Perfect.
He's
His mugshot.
That was last week. Me.
Mugshot. There's so many technology to help with this.
It's not gonna let me save it there. Let's see here. And what I can do is go over to this People tab, and I can load up this picture. It's a little hard to see at this distance.
Shouldn't be nervous.
And what the system can do is it can go through all of the footage on all of the cameras in a matter of seconds and pull out video clips.
That's checking out the field.
So this is actually from the PTZ camera, pan tilt zoom camera that's on top of the high school on the front corner. You can see it's got an overview of the new field construction. And what it does, it's got a feature called Century Mode. There's 5 zones that it cycles through, one looking down the front of the building, and then across the parking lot, then to the new field construction, and then to the existing turf field. And it scans and looks for movement. And when it sees somebody, it can lock onto them and then zoom in and follow them for about 15 seconds before moving on.
This is how Dr. Tiani knows Dr. Schaefer is on school property.
Some of the other features with this, we can not only look for people, but we can search for vehicles. We can do a search for any vehicle that is blue. And it'll quickly go through and find all of the blue cars. So if there was ever an incident outside in one of the parking lots and somebody just said it was a blue sedan, we could just do a search for blue sedans and then instantly go through and look at footage. These also have the ability to, if we need to be alerted, if somebody comes on campus that we need to be alerted about, it has the ability to text a group of individuals, our SROs. So if there was ever a safety concern, this system helps, cover that a little bit too. Thanks, everybody.
Just a final comment on that. Since we installed this, we have done 2 things multiple times without saying names. One is resolve an issue that involved one of the students, and averted the issue with 2 separate ones. And those are just 2 examples of averting and resolving. And it's all through the use of the technology that we are very grateful to the board for investing in. So there is return on the investment. This is what it is, and it's really good stuff.
Mr. Robeson, that's great. Justin, thank you very much. Wonderful job. Mr. Robeson, I'm sure it wasn't by coincidence that you chose Mr. Abdallah, was it?
In all honesty, when we did this at the technology meeting,
I think he told me revenge is sweet.
look, he looks good on camera. What can I say?
And as an addition to that, we also work consistently with our local, municipal, and state first responders. They are aware of and have access to this technology and our cameras. So in the event that they have to respond, they can get eyes on our campus quickly.
Okay.
So, Dr. Schaefer, so the police could get that footage on their computers?
They can get it on their phone.
And then in their
Cruisers.
police cars? Oh, yeah, we've got,
They're not
given
driving.
all of the local police access to it. Great, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Henderson, you board report?
Yes, I do have, I do have a curriculum committee report, but before I start that, I just wanted to take a minute. I know this is Dr. Vitale's last meeting, so I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge everything that you've done. It's been a true pleasure to work with you on the board and also serve with you on the curriculum committee meeting. I was able to see firsthand all of the countless hours that have gone into everything that you've done since you've been here. Several years ago, we did not have a formal written curriculum. You were instrumental in making that happen. We've kind of ticked off all of the major content areas on the list, and I know that every single thing that you've done, down to professional development, helping to write the curriculum, evaluating programs, lessons, assessments, every single thing is done with thought and purpose. And I just want to acknowledge all of the hard work that you've done. And we are truly going to miss you, and we appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you. We wish you well. We just have a little something for you.
Yes. Yes.
We talked about how uncomfortable I am with the tension.
Which means that we just had to accelerate that. It'll be that. I think that you just gave that to her, like, here you go. It's a huge plant right in your face.
Okay, are there any other board reports at this time?
I actually have a curriculum.
Oh, I thought, I was,
Just
That was in place of her board report?
I'll keep it brief. I will keep it brief. We we had a rescheduled meeting, and I apologize, we generally post when the curriculum committee meeting is going to be, but it was kind of scheduled somewhat at the last minute because Dr. Vitale was away last week. Dr. Haas started Monday. Dr. Vitale's finishing, so we did kind of try to schedule something so that we could have a meeting as a more of a transition. So we went over, second grade is going to have a universal screener for our gifted program. The numbers of students participating in the gifted program right now are fairly low, and we are looking for ways to capture students who may be gifted, but are not presenting as such throughout traditional classroom measures. So every student will be given this screener. It's going to start in February. It is an opt-out. Parents can opt out of having their students screened. It's going to be offered to every student, even students who are already receiving special education services. Looking at comprehensive goal number 1, math curriculum development and implementation, OGAP, professional development training continues. In October, kindergarten through 4th grade received small group intensive instruction by grade level by looking at students' work, creating a lesson, teaching it, and then going back and debriefing. Teachers also have been using LinkedIn. It's they received training on the intervention management system that we're using. It's going well. That is a data warehouse that is kind of capturing all of the data and assessments so that we can have one place to be able to look at student assessments. Comprehensive goal number 2, science curriculum writing. The new science program has been implemented this year. Teachers have received professional development in October. We're looking at a second day so they can receive more professional development on the new program. Comprehensive goal number 3, school climate. PBIS is being implemented at all levels. Each building we have grade level leaders. They meet quarterly at each building level. Recently, all 3 building levels, elementary, middle, and high school, met together. They talked about what was working well, helping to troubleshoot some things, coming up with new and different strategies. Renaissance Educational Consulting, their professional development is continuing. Right now, we have a cohort of 14 middle school teachers, just looking at the different ways how these things are being embedded into the school day, things that students are already doing, just reinforcing that positive behavior that we're looking to continue. There's also a Student Leadership Academy that has been developed. It's kind of the second part to the teacher cohort where teachers nominated students and they formed this cohort where they are going through this training and as a leadership team, focusing on how they can lead change within the school, getting feedback from the students on what they're observing and coming up with solutions. The middle school completed, the first marking period, they completed the one book, one school. It went very well. It was well received. It is a heavy lift in terms of funding. So we are looking at doing it again, but we are looking at different funding opportunities to do that next year, and we're also looking at possibly doing it at the different grade levels, maybe something in elementary and high school. Workshop for caregivers. They are taking place the last Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. at the high school. Last month, September, we had the safety, it's digital safety and school safety, looking at different, issues with social media, kind of giving parents different tips and pointers for helping students navigate social media. And our parent workshop will be on stress management and building resiliency. That is going to be the last Tuesday of November, 6 o'clock at the high school. Refreshments and child care is going to be provided. Almost done. Social studies curriculum rewrite. K4, the elementary guiding committee has pretty much wrapped it all up. We're hoping to have it all finished by the autumn recess. And this includes the lesson plans and looking at the different materials that are going to be needed for the program. Fifth and sixth grade, they're looking at ways to incorporate the scheduling. And high school level, administration will be sending out a survey to see what students are interested in taking, and that'll help drive what electives are going to be offered next year. 2-hour delays have been going well. We just had our second one. Teachers and educators are using this time to look at different data to see how they can form groups and look at different building resources for those groups. And so far, I mean, I think overall the feedback that we've gotten from parents in the community, we really haven't heard much pushback. I think it's a positive thing for our educators, and I know some of the kids appreciate the extra shut-eye. We're looking at the academic, Dr. Vitale, one of her last standing orders was to propose an academic calendar for next year. And one of the last topics we talked about was that financial literacy must be offered at the high school for the 26-27 school year. It's going to be a half a credit, and every student will have to have it for a graduation requirement. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being thorough.
She is that. Okay. Any other committee reports?
I just have a little report from the AEIO. They had asked me to share with them their November meeting, and they've approved funds for the mock trial for them to start to register for some of their competitions and help them to pay for, the registration and for their travel expenses. And they've also asked me to share with the district and the community that they are eagerly waiting for proposals. There's not been too many proposals yet this season, so if there's any teachers out there that are looking, or the committee chairs or whatever, looking to find some avenues of where we could help out in any way financially and help the district out, the AEIO is willing to do that.
Great, thank you. Okay, superintendent's report, Dr. Schaefer?
This time, I do not have a report tonight.
No report, okay. The next item of business is the public comment. If you want to address the board, we ask you fill out a card stating your name and where you live, and we ask you keep your comments to about 3 to 5 minutes. At this time, we have one person, and if there's anyone else, please let Mrs. O'Day know. But at this time, Katie Nagel from Newton Township.
Hi there, good evening. Katie Megley, Newton Township, mom and special ed teacher for 24 years. I have a variety of concerns that I would like to bring to the board. Some of it is confidential, so I will not mention it here. However, I have attempted to make several attempts through administration at this level as well as at the building level, and it's just not working out so well. So I would just like to bring that to your attention, that I do believe there needs to be disability awareness training for not only teachers but for the administration in being able to address students with a variety of special needs. As you can tell, I'm very well educated in that area, and I'm trying to work with the district in supports of my son, and not only my son, but any student in this district that happens to experience a disability. I am here to advocate for them as well. So I'm just very displeased with the process so far, and I just wanted to publicly make that known. That's all. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Becky Stowe, Clark Summit. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Becky Stokes from Clark Summit. I have a few questions. Are you planning to do another tax hike for the 4th year in a row? I believe it would be. Is that in the works? A tax hike? Are you planning to do another tax hike for a 4th year in a row?
So what we stated publicly in our meetings is, yes, we in fact, if we wanted to stay on the timeline and provide the level of quality facilities, and improvements that we need that would indeed need to happen. To what extent, I can't answer that right now, because what we're doing now is going through our preliminary budget for next year. We'll take a look at that, and then the board will vote on a preliminary budget in the beginning of the year, but those decisions won't be made until June.
Okay. And are you planning on going to the state to get the index increased, to write to the state?
That needs to be considered along in that preliminary budget. What you're talking about is the exception, and at this point, we've mentioned in public before, really the only exception that we may, or I should say might qualify for, would be a special education exception. So we'll go through that process. It's a pretty standard formula. In some cases, we will not qualify. So we'll take a look at that, and that would be included in the preliminary budget.
Okay. I was looking on the second field for the high school, and I don't see any contracts there. I see proposals, but I'm not seeing contracts or prices. Do you have a budget for that, or do you know how much that's going to cost?
Yeah, so we went through a state contracting process called CoStars, which we spoke about, and the range for that project would most likely be between $4.5 and $4.7 million.
Okay. And is there a place to look for that information?
Yeah,
Like
it's
a
on our
specific-
board agenda. So that's a public document on our website. But if you email me,
Okay.
I can get you that. We've used several local contractors that are out there. In fact, most of the work in the beginning has been done. I try to put that out on social media, all of our local contractors being used.
Okay. There's, let me just see here, I know you made mention about paying somebody $16,000 a year to write 2 school newsletters, and that didn't include the printing and the publications, and $500 per school podcast for podcasting, and paying somebody $100 an hour for, maintaining Facebook and Instagram. That basically totals about $38,000 a year that could be saved if we were to do that differently. I don't know if there's having students do something with that versus paying somebody to do some of this as savings. I don't know if there's any way to, redo that, to look at that.
I do believe that is a cost-efficient solution and pays dividends in the long run. We've received a lot of positive commentary on providing more transparent information out there. The newsletter and things like that are some estimates, so we haven't put out our first newsletter. I know that we're working through that copy, but we also do work with our media production team at the high school through their curriculum.
Okay. So they are involved, the students are
Yes.
involved in
Mhm.
that process?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Our first action and discussion item is to approve the treasurer's bills and reports. Mrs. Karam?
We began the month with a cash balance of $28,618,933.62. We took in $8,873,208.17 in revenues. Our net disbursements were $4,404,711.29 for a cash balance of $33,087,430.50.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the report and the bills?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson? Yes. Mrs. Hillebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker asked that we would consider a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hillebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
thank you.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask that the board consider a motion to approve the November 2024 volunteer list.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
This is just a reminder on this next item that this is only the first reading. We still have another reading to go for the policies, so we still accept comments and work through that process. So at this time, I'd ask the board to consider a motion to approve the first reading of Policy Series 200.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hildebrand? Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask the board consider a motion to approve the affiliation agreement between Abington Heights School District and Marywood University.
So moved.
Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
I'm going to go back. At this time, I'd ask the board to consider a motion to approve the second reading of the Policy Series 200. These are the 200 pupil series that we put up at the last meeting.
So moved.
Second. Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
This time, I'd ask the board to approve the Thomas J. Colino engagement letter to provide legal services pertaining to vandalism.
So moved.
Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
Mr. Acker, ask the board consider a motion to approve Dr. Michelle Koss as the Safety and Security Coordinator and Federal Programs Coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
Mr. Acker, at this time, I ask the board to consider a motion to approve the transportation contract between Abington Heights and Courtney Sioko, a private contractor, retroactive to September 4, 2024, to transport students to school. And this is relative to non-public students.
So moved.
Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
8-0.
At this time, I would ask the board to approve a contract with Kimberly Koss Scanlon to provide legal representation for Abington Heights Middle School expansion project. And this specifically pertains, it's outlined in the engagement letter, to representing us at the conditional use hearing in Newton Township.
So moved.
Second.
on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hillebrand,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask the board consider a motion to approve the disposal of 2 milk coolers.
Oh, my God.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hillebrand,
Yes.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
8-0.
I ask that the board consider a motion to approve the Earth Engineering Incorporated agreement for an estimated fee of $19,675 for geotechnical engineering services at Abington Heights Middle School. And just so you know, this is a contract with us, and we work through our civil engineer. This is basically hundreds of borings, all right? So they're going to drill down into the earth to take a look at what's underneath there. That'll help inform some of the plans with our civil engineers. So this is a pretty quick process, and then they'll work through our civil engineers to schedule it at a time, so it's not intrusive with anything that's happening in the middle school. But, you know, don't be surprised if you see some heavy equipment up there. They're just drilling hundreds of holes.
On the motion? I'm sorry, can we have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hillebrand,
Yes.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
8-0.
Okay, is there any additional information or unfinished business at this time? New business? I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.